I think all scientists, and beginning with the PhD students, should be encouraged and trained to go out and communicate science to the general public. You can make a purely self-interested case for that. I mean, the taxpayer is responsible for paying for most of the science, and if we don't sell our science properly, then you're going to get people simply not seeing why they should be paying taxes. Remember the awful speech by Sarah Palin in the previous election, where she said something like, "Do you know that the United States, the federal government, is funding research on fruit flies? I kid you not," she said. That kind of attitude is probably all too widespread, and it's the responsibility of us as scientists to make sure that we go out there and communicate properly, so that there'll never be another Sarah Palin. I have a certain amount of encouragement from the internet and the fact that because of Moore's law, which sort of in economic terms states that the cost of computing power, the cost of computing power is decreasing exponentially. That's the economic way to put it. Computers are becoming increasingly available to people even in poorer countries. And it's quite hard, I think, for governments and for religious authorities to police access to it. They try, but things like little films on YouTube and websites and access to the world's media through the internet do give me great hope and great encouragement. We are in my foundation increasingly getting letters from places like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, places that are under the heel of Islam. And I think things are improving, and I think it may be that the internet may be a wonderful source of propagation of information. Has the right to look around and say, who are the enemies of science? Who are trying to hold science back? Science is wonderful, science is true, science is the study of the real. And the study of the real is wonderful and fascinating and exhilarating. And everywhere you look, you find that the study of the real is being subverted by organized opposition. And many, many different religions do that. That could be said by any scientist. And in my particular case, as an evolutionary biologist, as I've often said, evolutionary biology is in the frontline trench. Because whereas physics and chemistry are only in a sort of rather vague way opposed by religion, evolutionary biology is under constant fire. In everything we say, practically, in the central theorem of biology, which is evolution, is under fire from religious interests, which are immensely powerful in the Islamic world, immensely powerful, unfortunately, in this country. More than 40%, according to polls in this country, more than 40% of people believe the world is less than 6,000 years old. Now that is an astonishing departure from reality. It really shows an amazing disregard of reality. And so any evolutionary biologist has an additional reason to want to get out there and fight for scientific truth. So I don't apologize for, I've done that all my life. I mean, my first 9 books or so were all about evolutionary biology. But then when I came to write The God Delusion, it didn't seem to me to be a departure. It seemed to me to be just carrying on the same trend. So let's say 50,000 years is probably too short you will almost certainly be the same. But if you say it took 5 million years, in order for something really interesting, like, I don't know, sort of bug-eyed monsters and great big brains and things to happen, it would be necessary for a sustained selection pressure to be pushing in that same direction for a substantial part of that time. We know that such a sustained pressure must have existed for the last, say, 3 million years, because we know from fossils that Australopithecus, which is almost certainly our ancestral genus, had a brain the size of a chimpanzee, but walked on its hind legs. So we already walked on our hind legs at that time, and since that time, during the last 3 million years, our brain has blown up. In order for that to increase, it would be necessary for whatever selection pressure it was that pushed the brain to get larger is continuing. We don't know what that selection pressure was. For some reason, the brainiest individuals were the ones who had the most children. Is that true today? You could possibly divide humans into those who have lots of children and those who have none, and then ask the question, is there any statistically significant genetic difference between this lot and that lot? And if you find a significant genetic difference, then by definition we have natural selection going on. But in order to produce an interesting evolutionary change in a few million years, that difference has got to be sustained for a substantial part of that time. And it's quite hard to see why that would be, as long at least as we go on living in highly industrialized, city-dwelling medical societies where the normal cutting edge of natural selection is blunted, and the reasons why people have different numbers of children are likely to be heavily dependent upon cultural conditions, which may change too rapidly to keep any given selection pressure sustained for long enough.